Hey everyone, I hope you're well. This is the story about what if Naruto was master of the forbidden jutsu Jiongu. Before we start, please subscribe to the channel and like the video as well. So without any further ado, let's start the what if. Chunin Exams Stadium Medical Wing. Neji sighed as he tried to get some feeling back into his body. Hinata's last attack really did a number on him. He knew that the 64 palms was painful from what he had seen, but he didn't think that it was this painful. How could I have been so blind? Fate means nothing in a world where the impossible can become possible. Neji thought. I have been a fool and have shamed my father. He is probably rolling in wherever Kyumo placed him. There was a knock at the door. Who is it? Neji asked. It's me, Tenten's voice replied. Come in, Neji told her. The bun-haired girl walked in the room and approached Neji's bed and sent him a withering look. So, she began, have you finally come to your senses and abandoned all of that fate shit? Or do I have to do it myself now? Neji flinched a little under her gaze and said, no, I think that I finally understand what you, Lee, and Guy-sensei have been trying to tell me all this time. Good, because if you didn't. Tenten trailed off as she pulled out a scroll and unsealed a spiked mace. I would have been forced to use this in order to beat it out of you. Neji gulped audibly. While he would normally have been able to defend himself from any of Tenten's weapons, he was currently helpless and at Tenten's complete mercy. I would appreciate it if you didn't pound my nephew into paste please, a voice said. Tenten turned around and saw Hayashi standing there with a ghost of a smirk on his face. Eep! Tenten squeaked as she quickly put away the mace. Hayashi-sama. Please forgive me. It's quite alright Tenten-san, Neji needs someone to keep him in line when Hinata isn't around, Hayashi said. Now then, can you please step outside for a moment so I may speak with Neji privately? Hi Hayashi-sama, Tenten bowed as she went outside and closed the door. Hayashi turned around and faced his nephew. Neji, Hayashi began, do you know why I am here? Because you are going to punish me for what I have said in the arena, Neji said as he lowered his head. No, Hayashi said, surprising Neji, I came here because I now believe that your eyes have finally been opened. What do you mean? Neji asked. What I mean is that now you are no longer blinded by your belief in fate. As such, I think that it is time for you to see something that you should have been given long ago, Hayashi told him as he pulled out a scroll and handed it to Neji. Neji took the scroll and began to read it. Going to skip the letter because it's been written by others so many times now that I don't want to just repeat it. By the time Neji was finished reading, he had a few tears in his eyes. He looked up to see Hayashi kneeling on the floor and bowing so low that his forehead touched the floor. Neji, forgive me for being unable to take his place, Hayashi begged. No, please stand up Hayashi-sama, if anything, I should be asking you to forgive me for all that I have done, Neji told him. But now I must go and beg Hinata-sama for forgiveness. Worry not Neji, Hinata will forgive you in a heartbeat, Hayashi reassured him. If anything, you should be asking Naruto to forgive you. All of those degrading comments towards Hinata while in his presence has never been good for anyone's health. But what could he do that would harm me? Neji asked. Come and sit in the stands, I think that you'll find out soon enough. Chunin Exams Stadium Arena Floor. Hajime. Yujito raced towards Fu while pulling out a kunai. She went for a quick jab at the vedette, but the Nanabai Jinchuriki was able to move out of the way before she threw a kick at the Kyumo Kunoichi. Yujito caught the kick and yanked Fu toward her, making her stumble as she lost her balance. Yujito went to punch Fu in the face, but Fu turned so that her head passed Yujito's fist as she placed her other foot on Yujito's chest and kicked off. You're good, Yujito said as Fu landed on her feet. I've practiced a lot over this month, Fu told her. Especially since I was with the only teacher I could rely on. I've got some moves to show you. Yujito smirked and made the bring it motion with her hand. Fu grinned and dashed forward as she pulled out two kunai and began to take slashes at Yujito. The blonde-haired Kyumo Kunoichi clashed her own kunai against one of Fu's before she caught Fu's other wrist as she brought the kunai down. The two were caught in a stalemate until Fu grinned and pulled back her free kunai. She then pulled on her captured wrist and made Yujito stumble while Fu brought her knee into the older girl's abdomen. Yujito gasped in shock before she regained her senses and shoved Fu away before she made several hand seals. Katan, Eo Gokakyu no Jutsu. Yujito blew out a large blue fireball that was quickly closing the distance between Yujito and Fu. Fu's eyes widened and she quickly dove to the side as the flames roared past her. Fu looked up and saw that Yujito had thrown several shuriken at her under the cover of the fireball. The Taki Kunoichi quickly rolled out of the way before she stood back up and faced her opponent. "Very impressive," Hiruzen said as he watched the match below. "Both of them show an impressive amount of skill." Yes, Yujito is very skilled for her age. Her determination to be one of the best in Kyumo is very impressive, A told him. "I heard that you had taken the girl in, correct?" Hiruzen asked. "Yes, I was close friends with her father and took her in when he died," A said solemnly. "What about the mother?" Tsunade asked. "Died in childbirth," A informed her. "Let's steer away from this bad mood," the Kazekage said. "That Fu girl is skilled for being from a minor village, a shame that nobody from Taki came. I sent them the proper invitation, and the messenger said that they received it," Hiruzen told him. "I guess that they decided not to come, much like those from Odo." Very disrespectful, they better have a good reason for this," A grumbled. "Great. Futon, Detapa." Fu blew out a large blast of wind at Yujito after throwing several kunai. Yujito leapt to the side before she dashed towards Fu and threw a punch at her. The blow caught Fu by surprise, and she was hit in the stomach and sent back a few feet. "You need my help yet?" Chomei asked. "Yeah, let's take it to the sky," Fu grinned. Chomei pumped up an arm and began to channel some of his chakra into Fu. Fu smirked as she felt the Biju's chakra flow through her body. She focused it towards her lower back and felt the familiar sensation of her body gaining some new appendages. Everyone was shocked when they saw two bright green wings erupt from her lower back. They were insect-like and looked like a dragonfly's wings. Fu's wings began to buzz as she lifted off of the ground and began to hover in the air. "She can fly!" Naruto exclaimed. "Well, Chomei only has one tail, the other 6 are wings," Kurama explained. "Can you make me fly?" Naruto asked. "What do I look like? The 9-winged fox?" "I can't fly, you idiot!" Kurama yelled. "Those wings look so pretty," Hinata muttered. Naruto grinned and asked, "Jealous?" Hinata just blushed and tried to hide her face into her jacket while Naruto chuckled. "Now this is something," Tsunade said as she watched Fu fly. Looks like Inoki might have some competition in the flying department," Hiruzen chuckled. "Not to mention the fact that she doesn't need to use a jutsu in order to fly," A pointed out. "If I was from a civilian family, I would probably say that you were cheating," Yujito said as she watched Fu dart back and forth like a dragonfly. "And then I would point out that ninja cheat all the time," Fu replied. Yujito couldn't help but laugh at the response. As soon as she got herself under control, she threw a swarm of shuriken at her target. Fu flitted around the projectiles and dive-bombed Yujito, who tried to backflip away, but was caught by her foot. Fu then proceeded to twirl Yujito around for a few seconds before throwing her towards the wall. Yujito rebounded off of the wall and landed on her feet in a cat-like manner. She quickly made several hand seals and took in a deep breath. Katan, mouse hairball. Yujito blew out a small blue fireball that had the image of a mouse inside of it. The fireball then split apart into several small fireballs that raced towards Fu. "Oh shit!" Fu cursed as she flew out of the way. But to everyone's surprise, the fireballs changed trajectory and chased Fu. She maneuvered through the air to try and escape from the jutsu. Quickly coming up with an idea, Fu flew straight down to the ground, and the fireballs followed her. At the last second, she flipped around and flew upwards, and the fireballs impacted against the ground as they couldn't turn in time. My turn, Fu grinned as she opened her mouth and expelled a large amount of scale powder that covered Yujito and a good part of the arena. Inside Yujito, the Nini's eyes widened as she realized what was going to happen. Get out of there, kitten. And don't use any Katan Jutsu. This stuff will blow you to Kingdom Come. Matatabi yelled. Fu whipped out 2 kunai and threw them into the cloud at an angle where they would hit each other. The kunai scraped against each other and created a spark that caused a large explosion. Rinpun Bakuhatsu, 1, Fu whispered as the smoke cleared. She landed on the ground and fell to a knee as that jutsu took a fair amount of chakra from her. Unfortunately, while her seal would allow a small amount of Komiai's chakra into her, it wasn't set at a level where her chakra coils would be constantly expanding like Naruto's. Right now, she had the chakra capacity of a mid-chunin level. 2. Fu froze as she felt cold steel on the back of her neck. She sighed as she knew that Yujito was behind her and had her in a bad position. The winner is Yujito Ni of Kyumo. Genma announced. Yujito pulled away the kunai and Fu got to her feet as the crowd cheered for the fighters. Fu turned around and saw that Yujito did not escape the blast unscathed. The right side of her clothes were blackened a bit, and her right hand had a couple of burns on them. You almost got me with that, Yujito said as she extended her hand. Fu grinned and shook Yujito's hand. The crowd cheered at the good sportsmanship that the 2 kunoichi were displaying. I thought that move would finish you, Fu said. My partner was yelling at me to get out of there, and to avoid using any Katan Jutsu, Yujito admitted. Fu chuckled, and now my partner is accusing yours of cheating. Genma approached the 2 and said, can you please move back up to the contestants box, Yujito-san? We need to get ready for the next match. Can I go back up there too? I've got nobody from Taki here, Fu admitted. Genma closed his eyes for a moment before opening them and signaling someone. Another Konoha Jonin shunshin down to him and the 2 whispered for a moment before the Jonin left. You can go, Genma said. Fu bowed in thanks and the 2 friends walked back up to the contestants box. A very impressive display, the Kazekage said as he watched the 2 shake hands. I can see that my daughter will have a worthy opponent to fight with. Yujito is the best kunoichi for her generation, A said proudly. I had no doubts that she would win this fight. Yes, both Yujito and Fu showed an impressive amount of skills in their match, Hiruzen said. I can see that they both would make fine chunin. It is a shame that we can't vote for Fu to become a chunin due to Taki not sending a representative. They weren't like Odo, where they sent a letter saying that they couldn't come due to internal problems, but said that we could vote for their genin as we saw fit. I find it insulting that they would just blow us off like this, Tsunade said. We'll deal with them eventually. For now, let us decide what will happen to Yujito, Hiruzen told her. Raikage Dano, what do you say? I vote for Yujito to become a chunin. She had shown a great ability in Katan Jutsu, where she was able to produce blue fire, a rarity indeed, A said. And she displayed a great intelligence level as she realized that all of that powder was combustible. I'm not sure as to how it is combustible, she only used it like the Kirigakure no Jutsu back in the preliminaries, Hiruzen told him. Nonetheless, I also vote for her to become a chunin. I would like to hold my vote, as I want to see how she would fare against Temari, the Kazekage explained. Alright, I'm up, Dadabayo. Naruto cheered. Good Luke, I mean, good victory Naruto-kun, Hinata said as she remembered the words Shino used in the preliminaries. Naruto gave her a large grin and said, thanks Hinata-chan, this is gonna be easy. Don't get too overconfident Naruto, Sasuke is the rookie of the year after all, Shino told him. Once he gets a look at these, Naruto began as his eyes flashed into the Sharingan for a second, he'll go crazy. Shino blinked for a second before chuckling, I honestly forgot about your hidden surprises for a moment. Still, I would like you to not be as overconfident as him, it does not suit you. Shino is right Naruto-kun, Hinata said. Please, be careful. Naruto nodded and walked towards the exit. As he was walking down the hallway, he was stopped by two older men. "Hey brat," one of them said. "What do you want?" Naruto demanded. Civilians weren't allowed into this part of the arena. He'd have to speak with the Hokage about this. "We're just here to ensure that our bosses win their bets," the other one said. "So we're just going to make sure that you don't show up." The two thugs chuckled as they cracked their knuckles and stepped forward. Naruto opened his eyes, and the thugs froze in place as they made eye contact with red, slitted eyes. "How about, no," Naruto said as he released enough Ki for the thugs to faint. He then pulled back Kurama's chakra and wrapped up the two in threads, before dragging them out with him. Genma raised an eyebrow as he saw Naruto walking out with two older men wrapped up in a cocoon of threads. Naruto stopped right in front of him and cut the threads that he was holding. "I'd like to know how two civilians got into an area that was designated for shinobi only," Naruto said as he looked at Genma with a bored expression. "What were they doing there?" Genma asked as he signaled for an Anbu squad to take them away. "They claimed that they were going to try and make me late for my match so their bosses could win an easy bet," Naruto told him as an Anbu appeared in the arena to take the cock and idiots away. Up in the Kage booth, Darui, Tsunade, and the Kazekage were all nervously glancing at the Hokage as he emitted a murderous aura. "When I find out who sent those idiots to do such a disrespectful thing," Hiruzen began, "I'm going to do things to them that will make Madara Uchiha and Orochimaru look like angels. And don't even get me started on what I'll do to the idiots who let them into that area." Now I see why he's called the Shinobi no Kami. This guy makes boss's temper look like a kid throwing a tantrum. Uh-oh, looks like I'll need to break out the sake earlier than I thought, not that I'm complaining. This is worse than the time Jiraiya accidentally peeked on Biwako-san. Over in the stands, Natsumi was glaring angrily at the men that her brother had tied up while Hanabi pouted at how mean they were to Naruto. Shizune was using Tun-Tun as a shield in case she accidentally brought Kushina's wrath down on her. Speaking of the redhead, she had entered a demonic mode of her own as her hair split into 9 tails, her eyes turned into a hollow white, and she was emitting her own murderous aura. "Kushina, please calm down," Hayashi said. "You can deal with the idiots later," Hitomi said. "Right now you need to support your son." Kushina sighed and calmed down, allowing everyone around her to breathe again. Niji was too shocked to notice that Kushina was Naruto's mother. "This Gaki better win, I've placed a lot of money on him," Zabuza said as he kept his eyes trained on the arena. "Don't worry Zabuza-sama, Naruto-kun's grown stronger," Haku told him. "You can tell by his posture." "Hi, he told me that his training's been intense over the month," Kurenai told them. "Naruto is a genius of hard work like me, he shall defeat Sasuke and show everyone how powerful he is," Lee declared. "Those are words that contain the power of youth," Guy exclaimed. Before the two could engage in another bout of youth, Tenten appeared between them and pointed 2 katanas at their chests. "Just try it, I dare you," she whispered. Figures that he would be late, Naruto sighed as he waited for Sasuke to show up. "You're forgetting that Kakashi is his sensei," Genma said. "It appears that I'll have to disqualify Sasuke," Hiruzen sighed as he went to call over an Anbu. "Wait Hokage Dano, we should postpone this match," the Kazekage said. Many people came to see the Uchiha member fight in the Chunin exams. It would be bad business for Konoha if they were not allowed to see this match. "More like you just want to see how well your little test subject's been doing," Hiruzen growled. "He should not be given special treatment just because he's the last of his clan," I said. "Unfortunately, Kazekage Dano is right," Hiruzen said. "I've seen that many of the nobles who came only arrived to see if Sasuke would live up to his last name. We'll just skip to the next match, that should give him enough time to get here." A Jonin shunshined into the arena and spoke quietly with Genma. The proctor nodded and faced the crowd while the Jonin left. "We shall move on to the next match as Sasuke Uchiha has not arrived yet, he will be given until the end of the next match to appear. If he does not appear by then, he shall be disqualified," Genma told them. Naruto walked off while grumbling about special treatment. Typical Uchiha, always late to everything, Kurama growled. The only one who was ever on time was Madara, that's one of the only two good things about him. What was the other one? Jiyu asked. He loved his family, Kurama told him. Will Gaara Sabaku and Kintsuchi please come down? Genma asked. Proctor, I forfeit. Kin shouted. I will not be able to fight my opponent, as his abilities are far beyond mine. The crowd booed at Kin's forfeit, but the Oto Kunoichi just sighed as she was able to live. Not that Gaara was even paying attention to her anyway. Ha! That's some bonus time the Uchiha got. The Raikage laughed. Damn that girl. She was supposed to fight Gaara and maybe survive for a few minutes so Sasuke-kun could arrive. Orochimaru growled. After seeing what Gaara could do back in the preliminaries, it's understandable that Kin decided to forfeit, Hiruzen said. Naruto had turned on his heel and walked back into the arena. He sat down and plucked blades of grass from the ground as he waited for Sasuke to show up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Genma paused in his countdown to Sasuke's automatic forfeit as there was a swirl of leaves in front of him, circling around two figures. Sorry we're late, Kakashi chuckled as he rubbed the back of his head. You're cutting it close, Kakashi. He was about to be disqualified, Genma told him. HN, you can't prevent me from fighting, I'm an Uchiha, Sasuke arrogantly replied. Let's get this over with, Naruto said as he leapt to his feet. In a hurry to lose? Sasuke sneered. You wish, Naruto grinned. Kakashi had vanished from the arena and went over to the rest of the genin and his fellow jonins. Just so you know, the rules are the same as the preliminaries, Genma told Sasuke. The fifth match will be between Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha will now begin. Hajime. Neither competitor moved a muscle. Naruto was settled into his personal stance, while Sasuke just stood there with his arms crossed over his chest in a superior manner. Are you going to take this seriously? Naruto demanded. We're at the Chunin exams where we're displaying the power of our village to a bunch of clients. The least you could do is pretend to care. I don't have to take this seriously, only an Uchiha can defeat an Uchiha, Sasuke sneered. You're not worth anything to me because you're a clanless orphan. I'm still surprised that you even got past the preliminaries. In the stands, many of the foreign people were put off by the Uchiha's attitude, while many of the Konoha population was shouting for Sasuke to beat Naruto into the ground, and there were even some whispers from some who were hoping that Sasuke would kill him. Luckily, Kushina didn't hear any of those. Fine then, Naruto said as he crouched down, I'll just show you why I'll be worth the effort. Naruto exploded forward and shot a fist at Sasuke's face. The Uchiha's eyes widened and he moved to the side to avoid it, however, Naruto pivoted on his heel and sent a backwards kick at Sasuke. He caught the incoming foot and was sent back a few feet from the force of it. Sasuke threw Naruto's foot away and began a barrage of punches and kicks that Naruto managed to avoid as he responded with his own attacks. Sasuke performed a feint and went to trip Naruto by hooking his foot onto the back of his knee, but Naruto leapt over Sasuke's leg and landed a kick onto his stomach that sent him back a couple meters. The last Uchiha looked up in time to see two Narutos racing towards him. He made several hand seals and released a giant fireball that engulfed the two. When the fire passed, Sasuke saw that there was a hole in the ground. He quickly jumped back as Naruto emerged from it as he tried to uppercut the Uchiha. Taijutsu's getting boring, let's change it, Naruto said as he began to make several hand seals. Sasuke activated his Sharingan, but was surprised to see that he couldn't copy them. What? I can't copy it? Sasuke thought. He watched as Naruto slammed his hand on the ground. Jiongu, Shirodori no Jutsu. 3. Naruto shouted as the ground behind him broke apart and a large crimson dragon shot out of the ground. The dragon had 3 horns on the back of its head and circled around Naruto protectively. Like my new jutsu? Naruto asked with a large grin. Sasuke just scowled and quickly formed hand seals. Katan, Hozenka no Jutsu. Sasuke jumped into the air and shot out several small fireballs that sped towards Naruto and his dragon. The dragon took a defensive position and blocked all of the fireballs. When the smoke cleared, the dragon was revealed to have lost the left side of its head. "Looks like your jutsu isn't all that great," Sasuke taunted. "Is that right?" Naruto asked as he placed his hand on the other side of the dragon's head. Sasuke saw Naruto's chakra flow into the dragon as its head fixed itself. Once repaired, the crimson dragon roared at Sasuke before it flew at him. "Threads? I've never seen a jutsu that uses threads before," Darui commented. "I saw something similar during the Third War with some Suna shinobi," Ace said. "Yes, we have some shinobi who use jutsu with a specially designed cloth that reacts only to the user," the Kazekage told him. The truth was that Orochimaru did some deep research into Suna to answer any questions that he might have been asked. "But this kid seems like he can make the threads," Ace said. "Naruto-kun's ability has always been a mystery," Hiruzen said. It wasn't a complete lie, the possibilities of what the Jiongu could do were growing every day. "You sound close to him," A noted. "He's a special boy who's able to bring out the best side of almost everyone around him," Hiruzen said. "Plus, he cherishes all of the bonds he makes with everyone. I find that to be a very good trait of his. If I didn't know any better, I would think that it was the Kyuubi that gave him that ability," Ace said. Hiruzen began to sweat. "Now why would you say something like that, Raikage Dano?" A laughed and told him, "You're forgetting that my brother is the Jinchuriki of the Hachibi. He told me that he felt the chakra of the Ichibi, Nanabi, and Kyuubi in Konoha." He then leaned over to Hiruzen and whispered, "Plus, your civilians are a bunch of loud mouths. I can't tell you how many times I heard them talking about how Uchiha-sama will finally kill the Kyuubi brat. Hiruzen grumbled at that and began planning punishments for a number of people. "There it is again!" Choji shouted as he saw the dragon. "That weird thread stuff. Just what kind of jutsu is it?" Ino asked. Kurenai turned to her and said, "Just wait, I'm pretty sure that Naruto will explain everything when he reveals the one thing that will drive Sasuke crazy." Asuma raised an eyebrow and asked, "And just what would drive Sasuke crazy?" Kurenai gave him her own fox-like grin and said, "Oh, you'll see it." "Please, there's nothing that will drive Sasuke-kun crazy," Sakura said deviantly. Ino would have agreed with her, but Sasuke's previous comment towards Naruto in the beginning really made her question a few things. Kakashi couldn't help but chuckle at his female student's belief. She would be eating her own words when Naruto revealed the Sharingan, and he didn't want to imagine what would happen if Sasuke saw the Mangekyo. "What do you find amusing, my eternal rival?" Guy asked. "Did you say something?" Kakashi asked as he lazily turned an eye towards the spandex-wearing Jonin. "Gah! Your hip and cool attitude strikes me again. How the hell did they make a guy like him a Jonin?" Zabuza asked. Sasuke leapt up as the dragon flew under him. He landed on the dragon's back and raced towards Naruto. However, the threads that made up the dragon churned for a moment before a second dragon head erupted right in front of him and snapped its jaws in order to bite the Uchiha. The raven-haired teen jumped to the side and threw two kunai with explosive tags at the dragon heads, both aimed at the middle of its body. The kunai exploded and the dragon heads fell to the ground before falling apart. Unfortunately, that's the one weakness of this jutsu, Naruto thought. For some reason, once the threads are separated, they fall apart. Most likely because they don't have any source of chakra running through them like my hearts. Naruto channeled chakra through the legs and dashed forward. He quickly released his gauntlets from their seals on his arms and aimed a metal fist at Sasuke's head. Sasuke ducked under the blow and dropped to his hands before performing a handstand and kicking Naruto in the gut. Naruto flew through the air and landed on his side before skidding to a stop by the wall. He quickly got up and saw that Sasuke had thrown a barrage of kunai at him. Quickly activating his Sharingan and hiding it under a genjutsu before quickly moving to avoid the lethal weapons. Crap! How the hell does he know how to do this? Did he take lessons with Tenten? Naruto asked. I highly doubt it. If you take a closer look, you can see that there's an empty scroll next to him. He probably bought some kind of specialized scroll that allows him to fire off those kunai with high speeds, Kurama told him. Oh shit! Naruto cursed as he saw that Sasuke had taken out 2 more of those specialized scrolls and fired them both at once. So Naruto tripled his efforts to dodge. He used his gauntlets to deflect as many kunai as he could. You know, this would have been much easier if you just finished that defensive jutsu, Kurama scolded. And who was the one who made me drop that training in order to gain control of using the one-tailed version 1 cloak? Naruto asked. Never mind. Getting back into reality, Naruto noticed that the barrage had lessened and that there was only a few kunai heading towards him. Naruto deflected all of the kunai and faced Sasuke, only to see another kunai heading towards him. Instinct took over as he moved his torso out of the way. Unfortunately, it managed to hit his trench coat and pin it to the stadium wall. Damn it! Naruto cursed as he tried to reach around and pull the kunai off. He quickly looked at Sasuke and saw a roaring fireball heading towards him. No choice. He growled as he slipped out of the coat and supercharged his legs with chakra, allowing him to jump out of the way. I had a feeling that he would have to reveal his secret today, Shino told Hinata. The Hyuga heiress nodded and said, yes, but he said that the villagers' reactions wouldn't affect him because he only cares for the opinions of the people closest to him. What the hell are those things on his back? Yujito yelled. Guys? I'm not the only one seeing this, right? Tenten asked. No, you're not, Ino said as she watched the events unfold in the arena. Choji gulped and said, I have a feeling that I don't want to know about whatever those things are. Okay Kurenai, now I think you owe all of us an explanation, Asuma told her. The female Jonin looked at the bearded Jonin and said, Naruto's probably going to explain it anyway. Besides, he knows more about it than even I do. I'm a little disturbed by the sight of that, A admitted. No child should have that many stitches, especially a genin. Those are not ordinary stitches Raikage Dano, Hiruzen told him. They are a part of Naruto-kun's special abilities. I'm sure that he'll explain it to everyone soon. The Kazekage was silent, but on the inside, Orochimaru was in shock. Impossible. There's no possible way that Konoha has any knowledge of Kakuzu's Jiongu. I would have known about it. How dare that old monkey keep something valuable from me? Both Hanabi's and Natsume's eyes widened and they scrambled for the large banner. They hoisted it over the railing and let it drape down so that it revealed the picture inside. It was a childish drawing of Naruto surrounded by all of his masks, except for Shredder as they haven't seen him yet. Go and Isan, the 2 girls cheered. What is this? Niji asked. Hayashi turned to him and said, this is Naruto's power. The one he had since the day he was born. He never displayed anything like it before, Niji said. Naruto doesn't like to flaunt his power to the village like us and the Uchiha, Hayashi replied. He likes to keep his abilities a secret until the time comes to reveal them, and that time is today. While the crowd was whispering about Naruto's appearance, the aforementioned genin was staring at Sasuke with annoyance. Teime. That was my favorite coat. Naruto yelled. Speaking of Sasuke, he was slowly backing away as he saw Naruto's revealed appearance. He had never seen the blonde without his coat off, so he was shocked by the sight of his stitching and the masks on his back. What the hell are you? Sasuke screamed. Oh, this? Naruto asked as he looked at his appearance. This is that little jutsu that Kabuto told everyone about back before the written test. You know, the one you demanded to give me. This is known as the Jiongu, a Kinjutsu that allows me to become the host to an ever-expanding body of threads. I can use these threads at my will, and that's not all. These masks that are stitched onto my back. They are the hearts of my enemies. Hearts? Sasuke asked as he turned a little green. Yes, you see, the Jiongu allows me to take the hearts of my enemies, and by extension, their elemental affinity. So I have the ability to use all 5 elements, something that would take many others a lifetime. It doesn't matter, you still can't beat me, Sasuke said. Only an Uchiha can defeat an Uchiha. And yet, I remember tying you multiple times back in the academy, Naruto taunted. Sasuke scowled at that reminder before saying, that was before I got these blessed eyes. He swirled his Sharingan for effect and continued. Now that I have the ultimate Kekkei Genkai, I can never be defeated. Enough talking. Let's get this show on the road. Naruto shouted as he made the Tora seal. His back twitched for a moment before all 3 masks burst off and stood beside Naruto. Sasuke was slightly unnerved by this before he steeled himself and rushed at Naruto. Up in the stands, many of the civilians began to freak out at the sight of Fox, considering they knew who Naruto was. Many of the foreign clients were slightly disturbed by the explanation, but that feeling was overwhelmed by their shock. The blonde Jinchuriki grinned and snapped his fingers, prompting his masks to act. Crab opened his pincers and began to fire off several blasts of Suiton, Teppadama. Sasuke began to weave through the attacks with the help of his Sharingan, before he reached Crab and prepared to drive a kunai into the mask. However, he was forced to duck as a giant boulder flew right over him, courtesy of Titan. He then rolled out of the way as Crab went to grab him with a claw. Jiongu, Suridoryu no Jutsu. Naruto shouted as he remade the Crimson Dragon and sent it to attack Sasuke. Having no time to dodge, Sasuke crossed his arms in front of him and braced himself as the dragon hit him and sent him flying. Sasuke stood back up and saw that Titan was charging towards him with a fist encased in stone. The giant creature swung its fist at Sasuke, but the raven-haired boy just jumped away before he made several hand seals. Katon, Gokakyu no Jutsu. Sasuke blew out a larger fireball at Titan. The masked creature just stomped its foot on the ground and a large slab of rock popped up, protecting it from the flames. Sensing danger, Sasuke jumped away as Naruto crashed into the ground where he stood. The blonde kicked off of the ground and dashed towards Sasuke. The 2 genin engaged in another taijutsu match as they traded blows. However, this time, Sasuke was able to knock Naruto off balance for a moment before taking a kunai and slashing Naruto in the chest. Surprisingly, Naruto just grinned. Sorry, wrong one. With that, he poofed out of existence. Kage Bunshin. Sasuke muttered before he was knocked away. He turned and saw that another Naruto was on him, however, this one was matching him blow for blow. They continued for a while until they pushed each other back. How are you keeping up with me? Sasuke demanded. Do you really want to know? Naruto asked in a serious tone. Yes. Tell me so I may take that power for myself. Sasuke shouted. Naruto sighed as he closed his eyes. About 8 years ago, I was walking through Konoha when I was dragged into an alleyway and knocked out. When I awoke, I was tied to a post in the middle of a training field and there was a Chunin standing before me. I asked him what he wanted, only for him to not say anything. He walked towards me and raised a kunai to stab me. My Jiongu reacted to the danger and attacked, ripping out the man's heart, and making it my first one in the collection. What does that have to do with anything? Sasuke growled. I'm getting there. Since then, the heart has been slowly giving me all of that Chunin's fire jutsu. However, that wasn't the only thing I got. You see, that guy was a part of a clan, and then I got that member's Kekkei Genkai. Care to guess what kind of Kekkei Genkai it was? Sasuke thought about it, how Naruto was able to avoid his attacks like he was predicting them, how he seemed to predict where the kunai would land when he used those scrolls. It all pointed to one thing. No, Sasuke whispered. It's not possible. Then Naruto snapped open his eyes, revealing the 3 tomos of his Sharingan. I really need to thank you for having a clan full of idiots. Otherwise, I wouldn't have these blessed eyes. What? The Kazekage shouted as he shot up into a standing position. Careful Orochimaru, you almost blew your disguise, Hiruzen thought. While the methods of the Kinjutsu are disturbing, I cannot deny how beneficial it is to the boy, A said. Being able to use all 5 elements, and being able to take Kekkei Genkai. I think I'll want staying on Konoha's good side as I would like Kyumo's Kekkei Genkai to stay in Kyumo. Perhaps we should discuss more of that subject after the exam, Hiruzen suggested. I nodded in agreement. Sharingan! Asuma shouted as he chalked on his cigarette. Guy was stunned into silence as he listened to the abilities that Naruto possessed. How long have you known about this? Asuma asked Kurenai. The Genjutsu mistress turned to him and said, ever since the true Genin test when he used it to find me. After that I was asked to keep it a secret as he didn't want all of the attention focused on him. The bearded Jonin then turned to Kakashi, who didn't seem surprised by this. And how long have you known? Ever since that mission to Nami where we picked up these two, Kakashi told him as he jerked a thumb at Zabuza and Haku. Down with the Genin, each one was shocked by Naruto's abilities. He's got people's hearts in those masks? Ino asked. Sakura gulped and said, he could have taken my heart if I made him angry enough. Nah, he wouldn't do that to ya, Kiba said, not affected by the events as he knew about the Jiongu. You don't seem surprised by this, why? Choji asked. I knew about it from the mission to Nami, Kiba told him. And you never decided to tell me or Sasuke-kun? Sakura yelled at him. Kiba gave her a look and said, Naruto asked me to keep it a secret, and besides, I just wanted to see the look on the Teime's face when he saw that Naruto had his precious eyes. Kai! Sasuke shouted as he pulsed his chakra, thinking that it was an illusion. Kai! He released a larger burst of chakra that left him panting for a few moments. This is no illusion, I have the Sharingan, Naruto said with a hard tone. This is a disgrace to my clan. How dare you take our eyes? You don't deserve them. Sasuke's curse mark flared up and covered the left side of his body as his rage grew. The scara of his left eye turned black. He then charged towards Naruto with a crazed look in his eye. Naruto tensed up as he watched the enraged Genin charge towards him. He slammed both his hands on the ground and created 2 thread dragons that both charged at Sasuke. The Uchiha Scion leapt up and landed on the snout of one dragon as he used it to jump towards Naruto. Sloppy, Naruto muttered as he pulled back his fist and buried it in the Uchiha's gut. Normally, Sasuke would have avoided such a tactic, but he was blinded by his rage. Now Sasuke-chan, there's no need to get worked up just because I have some new eyes, Naruto taunted. Sasuke growled and went through several hand seals and gripped his left wrist as lightning chakra sparked from it and the sound of 1,000 birds filled the arena. You taught him the Chidori? Guy asked his rival. I wanted to try and make him use it as a tool to defend his comrades, Kakashi replied. Besides, it's not like he'll hurt Naruto anyway. If what Jiraiya-sama told me is true, then he'll be able to at least counter it. I wonder how a Rasengan would fare against that, Naruto thought as he held out his right hand and began to focus. Seconds later, everyone could hear a swirling sound as the bright blue sphere appeared in Naruto's hand. At an unseen signal, both Sasuke and Naruto raced towards each other and thrust their attacks at their opponent. Chidori! Rasengan! Both attacks clashed and the ground shook for a moment as the jutsu clashed. Moments later, both of them were propelled backwards. Sasuke skidded onto the ground while Naruto managed to land on his feet. Now that was intense. Naruto grinned. He turned and saw that Sasuke was getting up while his curse mark pulsed with dark chakra. Can we please end this already? It's not even fun anymore, Kurama asked. Sure, I'm getting bored anyway, Naruto replied as he slammed his hands on the ground. The ground shook violently before thousands of threads shot out of the ground and raced to Sasuke. The Uchiha had no time to react before he was caught in the threads and trapped. Sasuke looked up to see Titan standing over him while winding its arm up. Night night! Naruto shouted as Titan's fist slammed into Sasuke's face, knocking the emo into dreamland. Naruto recalled his threads and let Sasuke fall to the floor while he stood next to his hearts. Winner by one hell of a knockout, Naruto Uzumaki. Genma announced as he grinned. In the stands, many people cheered at the amazing fight. However, those who placed their bets on the Uchiha were slightly disappointed. Unfortunately, the villagers on Konoha were booing the blonde and shouting that he cheated and that Sasuke deserved to have the win. Having heard enough of this, the Hokage stood up in his chair and took in a deep breath. Silence, the Hokage bellowed, instantly shutting up everyone in the stadium. You are villagers of Konoha. Act like such or I shall have you thrown out of this arena regardless of your status in the village. Everyone, and I mean everyone, gulped at the display of power that the aged Kage had shown everyone. Having recovered from his shock, Naruto raced towards the contestants' box. Once inside, he was tackled to the floor as he was hugged by Hinata. Naruto-kun. That was an amazing fight. Hinata shouted as she hugged the blonde even tighter. Naruto just blushed as he returned the hug. It was only a few seconds afterwards that Hinata realized what she was doing and quickly released the blonde, though she stayed near him this time instead of running to the other side of the room. You really are something else, aren't you? Fu asked as she walked over. What? Naruto grinned. Am I not allowed to have my own secrets? Fu sighed, your friend Shikamaru was right, some blondes are troublesome. So, any more surprises? Naruto grinned and said, you'll just have to wait and see. I'd take that as a yes, Yujito. No way, Sasuke-kun lost, Sakura mumbled as she watched the medics take Sasuke out of the arena. Yes. 3 for 3. Kurenai cheered. Let's hit the bar to celebrate Kurenai-chan's awesome teaching skills. Enko cried. Your first Genin team and they're blowing the competition away, Asuma shook his head. Yes. I'm rich. Zabuza cried. Were the odds against Naruto that bad? Kiba asked. Kid, the odds were 20 to 1. Everyone came to see the Uchiha win, Zabuza told him. Man, why is that Teimei so popular? Kiba grumbled. Tsunade-sama's the last of the Senju, but people aren't kissing the ground she walks on. It's because she doesn't have the Mokuton that her grandfather possessed, Kakashi told him. However, that doesn't mean that she's not worshipped, many young kunoichi want to be a powerful kunoichi like her. And then there are the fangirls, Kakashi thought as he glanced at Sakura out of the corner of his eye. She's starting to improve, albeit slowly. But still, she's getting there. Yes. Enai-san won. Natsumi cheered as she hugged Hanabi. The youngest Hyuga returned the hug as she was happy that her adoptive brother won. Now, do you see? Hayashi asked his nephew. Niji could only nod at the power that Naruto possessed. Hayashi-sama, tell me, would Naruto have taken my heart if I angered him enough? Niji asked. No, he would not have done so, Hayashi answered. But why? Niji asked. Because that would have made Hinata sad, Hitomi answered. If there's one thing Naruto-kun hates, it's having his precious people sad. That was an exciting match, wouldn't you agree? Hiruzen asked his fellow Kage. Yes, the Uzumaki boy showed great talent, and he was able to keep calm the entire fight, except for that little outburst about his coat, said. I can understand that frustration though, as they were a gift, Hiruzen said. If there's one thing that Naruto likes, it's getting gifts. Understandable due to his condition as the Kyubi Jinchuriki, the Kazekage said. Hey, sensei, Tsunade began. You know about my luck, right? Hiruzen sighed, please tell me that you didn't put Konoha into debt. No. I had Shizune place a bet using money that she took from me, do you think that it'll affect my luck? Tsunade asked. How should I know? Wait a minute, did you win? Hiruzen asked her with a horrified expression. Indirectly, Tsunade answered with a happy grin. Is there a problem, Hokage Dano? The Raikage asked. You know about Tsunade's lack of luck, right? The Raikage nodded. Well, what you probably don't know is that whenever Tsunade wins, something bad happens. And I have no idea what bad thing will happen. For all I know, the moon will fall from the sky. Let's not get dramatic here, the Kazekage interrupted. Tsunadeheim said that she had her apprentice place the bet, so maybe nothing bad will happen. Hiruzen sighed and asked, anyway, what are your thoughts on the match? I'm giving my vote to the blonde. As I said before, he shows a lot of talent and was able to keep a calm head during that match, I told him. Indeed, the boy showed impressive skills that he was able to use easily, the Kazekage agreed. Very well, Naruto Uzumaki will be promoted to Chunin, Hiruzen said. Minato, you would be so proud of him. What of Sasuke? Hiruzen asked. He doesn't deserve the Chunin rank, the Kazekage said. He may possess the strength required for it, but he lost his cool when his opponent made some revelations. Even though they may have been shocking, he still should have kept calm. If Sasuke-kun believes that the village is holding him back, it will push him into coming to me. Kukuku. I agree with Kazekage Dano, the Uchiha doesn't have the necessary mind-set of a Chunin. Not to mention the fact that his attitude needs a lot of work. If you remember his words at the beginning, he dismissed his opponent due to the fact that he didn't come from a clan. A real Chunin is not an arrogant shinobi. Very well, Sasuke will not be promoted to Chunin, Hiruzen said. Chunin Exam Stadium. I'm so proud of him, Kushina said as she wiped the tears from her face. Hitomi placed a comforting hand on Kushina's shoulder and asked, I bet you're glad that you were found just in time for this, right? Kushina nodded and said, I only wish that Minato was here, he would have been so proud to have watched Naruto-kun grow up into the person he is today. Natsumi sensed her mother's slight depression and walked over to her. Don't cry, mommy, you still have to help me cheer for Nissan. Kushina smiled and picked up her daughter, placing her on her lap. You're right, sweetie, we don't want Naruto-kun to lose his next fight. Kushina-san. The elder Uzumaki turned to see Karen standing there. Karen-chan. What are you doing here? Well, I was allowed to come to the exams since nobody from Kusa came, Karen explained, and since you're the only person I know who's in the stands, I was wondering if I could sit here. There's no need to be so formal, dear, Kushina smiled. Of course, you can sit here. Thank you, Karen said with a smile. And you know, Kushina whispered, you can call me auntie if you want to. I'd be more than happy to have you as a part of the family. Karen wiped away a small tear and said, thank you, Aunt Kushina. Looks like you two are up, Naruto said to his teammates. Hinata and Shino looked at each other and nodded. Let's have a good fight, Hinata, Shino said. Hi, let's do our best, Shino, Hinata agreed. The two teammates made their way down to the arena and stood across from each other. The seventh match between Hinata Hyuga and Shino Aburame will now begin. Genma announced. Hinata, Shino began, no matter what happens, let's do our best and show everyone how well we've grown. Yes, Hinata agreed with a smile as she slipped into her Juho stance and activated her Byakugan. Shino pulled out his katanas and prepared himself. Hajime! Genma yelled as he jumped back. Shino and Hinata dashed towards each other and swung katana and palm. Hinata's chakra-cloaked palm blocked Shino's blades and kept them in a stalemate. The two friends jumped back and sized each other up. Hack Kusho! Hinata cried as she began to fire bursts of air at the Aburame air. Shino channeled chakra into his swords and used them to block the air blasts. Unfortunately, he missed one and felt the massive pressure slamming into his chest, sending him back several feet. When he looked up, he saw Hinata dashing towards him while aiming a Juho strike at his shoulder. Shino twisted to the side and brought up his knee towards Hinata's gut. Hinata doubled over in pain before Shino quickly dropped his katanas and grabbed Hinata by her arm before throwing her away. Hinata righted herself in midair and landed several meters away. Shino sent out a swarm of insects at Hinata in order to subdue her. Suitun, Tepidama! Hinata yelled as she fired off several water bullets that hit the swarm, scattering the ones that didn't die from the water. Shino clicked his teeth in frustration and dashed towards her, bringing his katanas around in an arc to catch her off guard. Hinata narrowly avoided the blades as she felt the cold steel just leave a tiny cut on the shoulder of her jacket. The younger of the two quickly jabbed a finger into his right hip, and Shino could feel the tenketsu in that area shutting down. He slammed the hilt of his sword into Hinata's shoulder, causing her to wince in pain and back off while she applied a few strikes to herself in order to try and heal the damage. Doton, Earth Flow Spears. Shino made the necessary hand seals and slammed his hands on the ground. The earth churned for a moment before a wave of stone spikes jetted towards Hinata. She quickly jumped out of the way and saw that Shino was right on top of her, his sword in full swing, the flat side of it heading to smack Hinata in the face. Wow! They're doing great! Naruto cheered as he watched his two friends. You're acting like this is the first time you've seen them fight, Temari said as she gave the fellow blonde a questioning look. Well, it has been a month since we've seen each other, and I already had expected how the first round would go, Naruto explained. So you knew that the lazy ass would forfeit? Temari asked. Yup, I just didn't think that it would take him that long to throw in the towel. They appear to be at a stalemate, the Kazekage noted. Well, they are teammates, so I expected something like this to happen if they were to fight each other, Hiruzen explained. Just watch, I have a feeling that the tide's about to shift into someone's favor, Tsunade said as she pointed at the arena. Hinata allowed herself to fall backwards and land on her hands before performing a backflip, kicking Shino in the chin in the process. The disorienting hit allowed Hinata to land several Juho strikes onto Shino's shoulders. The Aburame moved out of the way quickly, but he already lost feeling in his right arm. It appears that you have me at a disadvantage, Shino said. Yes, I would have an advantage, if you were the real Shino, Hinata told him. The Shino, in front of her fell apart into bugs. Hinata quickly stood up and looked around for Shino. Her eyes widened and she quickly jumped up as two hands shot out of the ground in an attempt to grab her. Hinata released a battle cry and drove her chakra-filled palm into the earth. A grunt of pain was heard as Shino emerged from the ground a couple meters away while holding onto his left shoulder tightly. He held his katana out in front of him and tried to get the feeling back into his dead arm. Hinata dashed towards Shino and prepared to end the fight without causing her teammate much pain. Shino smirked and jumped back while silently watching his next move unfold. Hinata stopped in her tracks and looked around her as a giant swarm of insects surrounded her, preventing any form of escape. How did you set this all up? Hinata asked. While I was hiding underground, I spread out my insects in order to trap you, Shino explained. Now you have two options, you can surrender, or you can have your chakra drained away from you. What will you do, Hinata? Hinata gave him a small smile and said, You already know what my nindo is, I'll never give up. Shino couldn't help but chuckle, Naruto was a good influence on his youngest teammate. The Aburame air made a hand seal and the insects began to close in on Hinata. The Hyuga heiress took in a deep breath before she slipped into a different stance. So she's going to use the other one now, Hitomi noted. What other one, Hitomi-sama? Niji asked. The Hyuga matriarch just smiled and said, Why Hinata-chan's own version of the Kaiten, of course. Did you really think that we wouldn't make one during the month? I didn't think that there would be enough time for it, Hayashi interjected. Hinata-chan was very determined to get this move, Hitomi told him. Not only was this to increase her own jutsu library, but to try and impress Naruto-kun as well. Shugohaku Rokujian Sho. Hinata cried as she began to move her arms in an erratic manner, all while emitting a constant stream of chakra. From everyone's perspective, it looked like she was being surrounded by a giant dome of chakra wires. The insects were torn apart by the defensive jutsu and their many body parts fell to the ground. Shino's eyes widened as he gripped his head in pain, the feedback from all of those insects dying at once was too much for him. He called back what little of his insects he could save, and dropped to one knee in exhaustion while gripping his head tightly. I'm afraid that I can't go on anymore, Hinata, Shino panted. Did you surrender? Genma asked. Shino nodded and Genma announced. Shino Aburame has forfeited. The winner is Hinata Hyuga. The crowd cheered and Hinata walked over to Shino and helped him up. The cheering became louder at the sign of good sportsmanship. That was a very good fight, A said. Hiruzen nodded in agreement. Indeed, they both showed impressive skills, even though they probably knew each other's moves due to being teammates. That last move surprised me though, A told him. It looked like the Hyuga's Kaiten, but it was more offensive. Indeed, Hiruzen replied. It must be a very impressive feat to create a jutsu that is both offensive and defensive at the same time. Yes, she will make a fine chunin, the Kazekage said. So does that mean that you are giving her your vote? A asked. The Kazekage nodded in agreement. Damn, looks like Kurenai wins that bet, Tsunade cursed. Not that I'm complaining. You bet against them? Hiruzen asked the Sanin. Of course, an entire team of genin don't become chunin in their first exams, Tsunade told him. You, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru became chunin at your first exams, Hiruzen deadpanned. Tsunade just sputtered for a moment before huffing and turning around, doing her best to ignore A's roaring laughter. That was great, you guys. Naruto cheered as he pulled his teammates into a group hug. Shino had the breath knocked out of him again and Hinata turned a neon red. Naruto, as much as I appreciate your happiness for our performance, can you please allow me and Hinata to breathe? Shino asked. After releasing the duo, and waiting for Hinata to calm down, Naruto asked, So Shino, why did you forfeit? Hinata only got you a couple of times. It was during her last attack, Shino began, that I had to forfeit. You see, Aburames can feel the death of all of their insects. We're trained mentally to prevent that feeling from becoming too much. Unfortunately, I have not been trained to deal with the stress of having all those insects dying at once. It was beyond my limitations and my mind was close to shutting down due to the pressure. I'm sorry Shino, I didn't mean for you to get hurt like that, Hinata apologized. Shino waved her off. It's fine, I should have told you two about it before, but I deemed that information unnecessary at the time. Will Temari Sabaku and Yujito please come down? Genma asked. The two kunoichi walked down to the arena, but no words were exchanged between them. They faced each other and waited for Genma to start the fight. The eighth match between Temari Sabaku and Yujito will now begin. Genma announced to the crowd. Many people began to cheer at the prospect of seeing two ninjas from two foreign main villages of different regions fighting. Some just wanted to see Kyumo pay for what they tried during a certain incident a decade ago. Cough Hyuga clan cough. Hajime. Genma yelled as he jumped back. Yujito dashed forward and went to stab Temari with a kunai. The Suna Kunoichi whipped her fan around her, kicking up a large gust of wind. Katan, Eo Gokakyu no Jutsu. Yujito quickly blew out a large fireball that absorbed Temari's wind and enhanced the flames. Temari cursed and leapt out of the way as the inferno roared past her. She looked towards her opponent to see her dashing towards her with her claws. Temari got up and closed her fan as she held it like one would hold a bow staff. Temari blocked Yujito's claws and pushed her back before she jabbed at the Kyumo Kunoichi. Yujito received the full force of the fan, and burst into lightning, the electricity traveling up the fan and into Temari. The Suna Kunoichi just used a small amount of wind chakra to dispel the lightning, but that didn't stop her arms from feeling a little numb. Futon, Kamaitashi no Jutsu. Temari shouted as she swung her fan. Unfortunately, the numbness in her arms prevented her from creating a force as great as before, and Yujito took advantage of that. Katan, mouse hairball. Yujito spat out the small blue fireball that split apart into seeker fireballs. The wind from Temari's fan powered up the flames until they were each as large as one of Sasuke's Gokakyus. Temari's eyes widened and she quickly pumped chakra into her legs and jumped to the side as the fireballs impacted the ground where she once stood. Yujito clicked her teeth at that. she had hoped that the large flames would cause her to use her fan like a shield. That way the flames would heat the metal up to the point that Temari would have to let go of it, allowing Yujito to race in and end the fight quickly. Yujito quickly made 5 hand seals and sent her hands forward. Raitun, Jibashi. A wave of electricity raced towards Temari, and the Suna fighter had practically no time to dodge. She tried to roll out of the way, but the electricity reached her before she completed one roll. The lightning electrocuted her, and Temari let out a pained scream before she blacked out from the pain. The winner is Yujito ni. Genma announced as he checked the downed Suna ninja. Many people cheered for the blonde's victory, especially from the Kyumo section. The Hyuga clan cheered as well, though it was only to keep up a good appearance. That was a decent fight, A said. It may have been short, but it was good nonetheless. I'm just disappointed that Temari didn't last longer, the Kazekage sighed. Hiruzen turned to his fellow Kage and said, Now, it's only the second round, you should expect the fights to be shorter due to exhaustion and such. The Kazekage could only nod in agreement. Well, this fight should be longer then, especially since Gaara didn't fight, and the fact that Naruto's a stamina freak, Tsunade pointed out. Yes, I'm interested in seeing how this will go, A agreed. The two Jinchuriki faced each other on the field, both shooting each other glares. You could feel the tension between the two. Genma gulped as he felt like he was in the middle of 2 raging storms. The 9th match between Gaara Sabaku and Naruto Uzumaki will now begin. Genma announced as he steeled his nerves. There were no cheers from the crowds as even they could feel the tension in the air. Hajime! Genma shouted as he jumped back, but both shinobi didn't make a move. Suddenly, Gaara grabbed his head and grunted in pain. Yes, mother, he said, I'll make sure you get to drink his blood. And then I shall prove my existence. Gaara's arms then dropped to his sides and he stared at Naruto with a crazed grin on his face. Naruto tensed up and had some of his threads out to be ready. Without any warning, Sand erupted from the ground and raced towards Naruto. The blonde Uzumaki jumped away and created several hand seals before shooting out a large fireball. The flames stopped the Sand, but not the wave that was following it. The Sand hit Naruto in the chest and slammed him into the ground. When the Sand backed away, all that was left was a pile of threads. Where are you? Gaara growled. Hearing the sound of the ground breaking from behind him, the young Jinchuriki turned around and saw that one of Naruto's thread dragons was popping out of the ground and had its mouth wide open, allowing Naruto to walk out of it. What? Never seen a thread clone before? Naruto smirked. He then made the Taurus seal and brought forth his masks, Fox and Titan on his right and Crab on his left. The thread dragon coiled around the 4 and glared at Gaara. Gaara just raised his hands and summoned a large cloud of sand that hung over him ominously. The dragon let out a roar before it shot towards Gaara. The construct hit the sand and burst apart before all the threads shot around the cloud of sand and reformed into the dragon. Looking at his opponent, Gaara saw that Naruto had his hand on the dragon's body, pumping chakra into it. Gaara's sand held the creature at bay as it tried to take a bite out of Gaara. He sent sand into the creature and had it blow the head from its body, making both pieces fall to the ground harmlessly. Is that all? Gaara droned. Not even close, Naruto smirked as he raced forward, his hearts following him. What is he doing? Temari asked. Didn't he see what that other Konoha kid tried for rushing Gaara? Naruto-kun never does something without a reason, Hinata said. Temari scoffed, it doesn't matter what he does, Gaara can't be beaten. It's just not possible. Didn't Niji say something similar during your fight? Shino asked his teammate, to which she nodded. So what? He didn't have the ultimate defense, Temari defended. And Naruto has something better, Shino stated cryptically. Katan, Zukoku. Naruto shouted as he fell behind Fox as the thread construct launched the fireball. Gaara wrapped himself in a defensive cocoon as the flames washed over him. When the flames cleared, everyone could see that Gaara was trapped in a glass dome, much to his own confusion. And that kid's is what happens when you superheat sand, Naruto said in a mocking tone. Gaara said nothing as he summoned a large amount of sand and broke the glass. He then sent several large spears of sand towards Naruto and Fox. The Jinchuriki made several hand seals and raised a stone wall between the spears and himself. The sand impacted against the wall and immediately broke apart. Suiton, Teppadama. Naruto had Crab open up its claws and begin to shoot water bullets at Gaara, who didn't even lift a finger as the sand came to his defense. The sand kept shielding Gaara from the assaults that seemed to never let up. The sand started to become darker and heavy as it slowly sunk to the floor, making Gaara's eyes widen. He quickly added more sand to the shield, but it met the same fate. What is happening? Gaara growled. Oh, just a little experiment of mine, Naruto said. You see, I was wondering what would happen if your sand got wet. Would you still be able to control it, or not? Apparently, you can't. The young redhead glared at the blonde, and sent a wave of sand at Naruto. Titan stepped forward and slammed its fist on the ground, bringing forth a wave of rocks that stopped the sand. Prove my existence! Gaara shouted as he brought his arms forward. His senses screaming, Naruto turned around to see a large fist made of sand racing towards him. Having no time to dodge, he brought his arms up in an X to block it, also making a shield out of his threads. The sand impacted against him and threw him back a few meters. Damn, Naruto muttered as he got up, that's some hard stuff. Sand bullets. Gaara launched multiple small spheres made of sand at Naruto. Quickly making hand seals, Naruto took in a deep breath. Katan, Ryuka no Jutsu. Naruto launched a stream of fire at Gaara. His opponent raised his sand shield again and watched as it turned to glass once more. You're almost out of sand. Fool, I am never without my sand, Gaara stated as it strangely began to rain sand. The hell? Naruto asked as he created a mask with his threads to keep the sand out of his mouth and eyes. I think that this deserves some kind of explanation, Hiruzen began, especially since Gaara doesn't seem like he's going to. We knew that Gaara would eventually go out of missions outside of the desert, so we created ways for him to create more sand, the Kazekage explained. And how does it work? A asked. Gaara sends sand into the ground and uses it to break apart the minerals underground, the Kazekage told him. Very interesting, A muttered. Man, these guys are just pumping out jutsu after jutsu. Choji exclaimed. How much chakra do they have? Ino wondered. Haku turned to her master and asked, Zabuza-sama, who do you think will win? The former Kiri ninja turned to her and said, Blondie will obviously. Naruto jumped to the side as another wave of sand came crashing towards him. So far, Gaara was attacking him relentlessly while keeping his hearts at bay. Not surprising, Kurama said. Shikaku can control the sand himself in order to defend his container. But there's something else that's defending the boy with the sand. Like a jutsu? Naruto asked. No, something else. I just can't see what it is, Kurama admitted. Well, I've got no time to worry about that, Naruto said. I need to find a way past his sand to get a good hit on him. I don't want to use Kamui just yet. I want to see if there's a way that I can do it without that jutsu. By the way, why aren't you using Shredder? Jiu asked. I don't think that it's be much help here, Naruto told him. He's more for taijutsu, and Gaara's sand wouldn't allow it to get close. Besides, I don't have much practice with him. Die! Gaara yelled as he sent forth another wave of sand. Naruto cursed as he created a wall of earth to protect him. The sand broke through the wall after several slams, but Naruto was already gone. Katan, Karyu Enden. Gaara turned around to see Fox with the fireball in its mouth. Behind it was Naruto being held by Titan like he was a ball. Jiongu, Suridoryu no Jutsu. The flames raced towards Gaara and glassified the sand that he used to defend himself, but before he could do anything, the dragon crashed into the glass, shattering it before it fell apart, revealing Naruto, who drove his gauntlet-covered fist into Gaara's gut, sending the crazed Jinchuriki back a good distance. Gaara groaned and opened his eyes to see a thread dragon rushing towards him. Gaara had no idea what to do as the Sand was too far away to defend him, so he talked the full force of the attack as it crashed into him. Naruto pulled his hands from the ground and looked to see if Gaara would get up. The Sand was slowly crawling towards the small crater Gaara was in, like it was a child crawling towards its favorite toy. Naruto saw Gaara slowly stand up and face Naruto, wearing the same crazed look he had on for most of the match. Pieces of sand was falling from his body, showing that there were a few scratches in some places, but no blood. The only victory Naruto seemed to have was that Gaara seemed to be holding his side, right where a rib was. "Yes, yes! You will prove my existence, Uzumaki!" Gaara shouted. Suddenly, there was an explosion behind Gaara and Naruto saw that there was a tidal wave of sand going to crush him. "Ryusa Bikuryu!" Gaara called out as the sand came crashing down on Naruto. "All hands, into the ship!" Naruto yelled. His hearts frantically scrambled back to the blonde and reattached themselves onto his back before the sand crushed him. The sand filled the arena, turning it into a mini desert. Gaara landed on the desert and slammed his hands into the sand. "Sabaku Taiso!" The sand shook for a moment before it compressed itself, crushing everything underneath it. Gaara grinned madly as he took several deep breaths. "My existence has been validated," Gaara declared. "Keep telling yourself that," Naruto's voice said. Everyone watched in shock as Naruto swirled into existence, the swirl seeming to come from his right eye. A few seconds later, Naruto landed on the sand and released his hearts once again. "My turn," was all Naruto said before he raced forward and planted his fist into Gaara's chest. Naruto began to pound away at Gaara, despite the sand armor protecting him from most of the attacks. Naruto finished his combo and leapt back while weaving a few seals. "Futon, Daitapa!" Naruto released a large blast of wind that sent Gaara flying backwards, straight into Titan, who grabbed the redhead and threw him into the ground before jumping back to Naruto's side. When the dust cleared, Naruto could see Gaara getting up again, but this time he was different. His right arm had changed into a mutated claw of sand with blue veins, there was a tail of sand behind him, and the right side of his face was covered in sand, the right eye looked like Shikaku's. "Make me feel alive!" Gaara yelled as he raced forward and brought his claw down on Naruto. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki raised a wall of stone to defend himself, but it was promptly destroyed by Gaara, who then proceeded to smack Naruto across the arena. "Okay, that one's gonna hurt tomorrow," Naruto groaned as he got back up. He looked up and saw that Gaara was racing towards him like a wild animal. Naruto panicked for a moment before he weaved several hand seals. "Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu!" Naruto released a large fireball, but Gaara covered his normal body with the sand tail and kept charging. The flames washed over him, but didn't slow him down in the slightest. Naruto quickly activated the Kamui and stood still as Gaara passed through him. "You might need to use that special thing that the Toad Sage suggested," Kurama said. "It looks that way," Naruto admitted. He grabbed Fox and hurled him towards Titan. The two constructs crashed together and appeared to merge together. The new creature had the appearance of a centaur, only with it not being as tall due to having Fox's body as the lower half. Titan's upper body stood on the front and had both its mask and Fox's mask side by side. The 9 tails waved through the air in a lazy manner. "He's combined 2 of his hearts," I noted. "What could he be planning?" "I honestly have no idea." Hiruzen stopped as he realized what was happening. "No. It can't be that simple." "Care to share your thoughts, Hokage Dano?" the Kazekage asked. "I'd think it would be better to watch," Hiruzen said as he stared at the arena. "Here we go," Naruto thought. "Just remember the temperature, and how much earth to use." He carefully made several hand seals and had the Titan Fox hybrid face Gaara. Yotan, Lava River Jutsu. The combined constructs shot out a stream of lava at Gaara. The Jinchuriki was in a state of shock. but was still able to get away while some of his sand melted away, including his morphed right arm and tail. What? That was the general response from the stadium. Everybody was surprised to see Naruto pull out an elemental Kekkei Genkai out of nowhere. The only one who didn't seem surprised was Kushina, as she saw what Jiraiya wanted Naruto to try. Naruto panted as he caught his breath. Phew! That always takes a lot out of me. You! Naruto looked to see Gaara getting up again while the sand swirled violently around him. You will suffer. The sand exploded and enveloped Gaara. When the dust cleared, everyone could see that there was a giant tanuki made out of sand in the stadium. There were blue markings all over its body, and had a tail that looked like it was made out of smaller tails. Its eyes were star-shaped with 4 dots in the corners. On the creature's forehead was the upper body of Gaara. I don't understand, why hasn't Orochimaru-sama given the signal? A disguised Kabuto thought as he waited in his position. The Ichibi Jinchuriki has transformed, what more could we be waiting for? Elsewhere, Baki and his other 2 students were having similar thoughts. They knew that this was supposed to be the moment when the invasion would commence, but nothing was happening. I probably should begin the plan, Orochimaru thought. But I want to see how Naruto-kun fares against an enemy of this caliber. Let's see if he can become a good specimen. Shouldn't we stop the match? A asked. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want a bijou running around in the stadium. I agree, Tsunade chimed in. The Kazekage was about to reply, when Hiruzen stopped him. Wait, he said. Naruto spoke to me about this. He told me he has a plan if Gaara were to transform. What if he can't handle it? Tsunade asked, feeling worried for her grandson figure. I have a team prepared just in case he can't, Hiruzen replied, that serious look never leaving his face. Big. Naruto muttered as he saw the towering visage of Shikaku the Ichibi. What did you expect? He's a bijou, Kurama said to him. By the way, I suggest moving. Ha! Oh shit! Naruto looked up and saw that a large claw was heading down towards him. He quickly raced to the side as the large limb crashed into the ground. I suggest using your new summons, Jiyu told him. I don't think that you have anything that can hurt him. Yeah, you're right, Naruto admitted. He quickly jumped away and landed a safe distance from Shikaku. He then began to weave the hand seals for the summoning jutsu. Kuchios no Jutsu, Lord of the Inferno. Naruto shouted as he slammed his hand on the ground. The eruption of smoke stopped Gaara in his tracks. Everyone was on edge as they wanted to know what Naruto had summoned. Suddenly, the air grew hot and the sun became brighter. Many people began to sweat as the grass in the arena seemed to die from the heat. Growling could be heard from within the smoke, making everyone nervous. But they were in a state of shock and panic as they saw the smoke clear. Empty Myokabu. Gamamaru, the great toad sage, was resting in his seat while Fukasaku and Shima argued once again. He mentally sighed as he wished that they would stop arguing for one day. Suddenly, he gasped as he felt something he hadn't felt since the time of Hagoromo Otsutsuki. Both Shima and Fukasaku stopped arguing and turned to the elder toad. What's wrong? Fukasaku asked. I have felt a change in the wind, Gamamaru told them. Something incredible has happened. Something that hasn't been done in nearly 1,000 years. The Ancient Ones have been summoned. Chunin Exam Stadium. The creature inside the smoke was tall. Certainly not as tall as Shikaku, maybe around the size of his foot, perhaps bigger. It was reptile-like, covered in scale-like armor. There were 4 horns on its back that had a red glow towards the top. Its tail swished back and forth as its body let off a calm steam. The creature had claws that appeared ready to tear its victim apart. There was a horn on each side of its head that were ached forward like a bull's after they bent down to be on both sides of the creature's face. Speaking of its face, the creature's face appeared like a demon's, causing panic among the civilians, and there were flames let off with each breath it took. Come forth, mighty Ifrit. Naruto shouted from behind the creature. Ifrit's eyes began to glow a bright red as he took in a deep breath, and let out a primal roar. Graph! Wrath! Chunin Exam Stadium. Everyone was in shock at seeing Naruto summon Ifrit, especially since they have never seen anything like it before. Hinata, Shino called out to his teammate. Can you take a look with your Byakugan? Hi, Hinata nodded as she activated her eyes and took a look at Ifrit before she gasped. It's chakra, it's so powerful. It's like I'm staring into a roaring inferno that can burn everything it touches. Shino nodded dumbly before he saw Fu and Yujito lightly rubbing their heads. Is something wrong? He asked. Ugh, the Nanabai is going crazy now that thing's here, Fu answered. He's shouting things about father's successor or something like that. Same here, Yujito replied. Shino mused. Perhaps this creature has some kind of connection with the Bijou. I suppose we'll have to wait in order to find out. What is that thing? Choji stuttered. Well, Kurenai began as she regained her composure, it looks like that's Naruto's new summons. And what kind of creature would that be? Asuma questioned as his hands inched towards his trench knives. A friendly one. Kurenai offered weakly. Let's look on the bright side, Kakashi began, at least it's not running wild and destroying everything in sight. Such a youthful examination, my rival. Guy praised. Kiba looked at the creature and said, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but that thing looks sort of dog-like. Kiba, just because it walks of 4 legs, doesn't mean that it's a dog, Ino deadpanned as she wiped the sweat from her forehead. No, seriously. Kiba argued. That thing's stance resembles a dog when they're about to jump forward into attack. You know, Sakura said, he's kind of right. Over with Zabuza and Haku, the latter was sweating heavily, especially due to her element being ice. You know, you can leave it, this heat's too much for you, Zabuza told her. As much as I would like to, Haku began, I need to stay here and assist the others when the invasion begins. Zabuza just nodded and turned his attention to the arena. Why have you summoned me, Naruto? Ifrit asked. Do you not see tall, tan and ugly over there? Naruto asked. Ifrit looked over and saw Shikaku towering over him. Oh, Shikaku, Ifrit growled. He began to take several steps forward when he stopped. He began to sniff the air before he turned towards the crowd. He scanned the crowd and looked at each person among them. I smell you, Ifrit growled. You wear a stolen uniform. I smell your evil intentions, snake among the leaves. Come out, and perhaps I won't burn you too badly. He began to glare at each person, making them cringe with fear as his red orbs gazed upon them. Eventually, he stopped when he saw a figure in the shadows of the top row, wearing a dark cloak and a mask. Ifrit grinned darkly and pointed a claw at him. Kabuto was shocked that the new creature had found him, when even the Anbu couldn't tell who he really was. However, he wondered why he was just pointing at him. Suddenly, he moved away as a large lizard-like man slammed a large hammer where he was previously standing. Kabuto looked around and saw that he was surrounded by 4 lizard men. They had dark leathery skin and long head tails. 2 of them were carrying war hammers while the other 2 had halberds. The people who were by Kabuto turned around and saw the creatures before they began to panic. Deceiver! One of them cried. Surrender to us now! Another shouted. A small group of Anbu quickly flooded the scene. One of them quickly went to attack the beasts, but the captain stopped him. Wait, he said, that is not one of ours. Deciding to leave, Kabuto tried to get past the beasts, but was clipped in the leg by a halberd. Stumbling due to the sharp pain, Kabuto was quickly faced by a hammer-wielding creature that tried to crush his ribs. He rolled out of the way before pushing himself up and taking a small hop back. Unknown to him, Ifrit revealed a deadly grin before he lifted up his left arm and made a tight fist with his claw. As soon as Kabuto touched the floor, he was thrown forward by a small explosion. One of the creatures grab him and slam him down onto the floor face first, before kicking him over to the anbo. The captain gives the creatures a nod before they vanish in a column of fire. "You done?" Naruto asked. Ifrit smirks and says, "Yes, now then, what to do about Shikaku?" He begins to walk over to him. However, before he could take another step forward, Gaara shouted something from above. "Playing possum jutsu. The fool." Ifrit cursed. Does he care so little for his own life? "I don't get it, what's going on?" Naruto asked. "Shikaku can do more than control sand," Kurama began, "he can also manipulate people through sleep. I have seen that if the seals containing him are weak, then Shikaku can control his Jinchuriki. Do you see how the boy has dark rings around his eyes? That's proof that he has probably never slept in his whole life, out of fear of Shikaku taking over. So now Shikaku's gonna come out," Naruto realized as the giant sand creature's eyes gained life. "Fear not," Ifrit said, "we shall still emerge victorious." "Ah yeah. I'm back, baby. Let's get ready to Ryumbli. First a bijou, and now some kind of demon, what's next?" A asked. "Is this that thing you were telling me about?" Tsunade asked her sensei. "Yes," Hiruzen said. "This is what Naruto-kun had explained to me the other day, though I had no idea what he would be able to summon. He's kind of strange." Naruto's sweat dropped. "It matters not," Ifrit declared as he crouched down, "for he will burn." With that, Ifrit leapt towards Shikaku and landed on his claw. "What the? Get off me, Ifrit. This time, I'm gonna kill ya," Shikaku shouted as he swung his claw around. However, Ifrit managed to hang on and let loose a stream of fire from his mouth that turned everything from Shikaku's elbow down to glass. "Stop doing that," Shikaku shouted as he smashed his glass arm on the ground, shattering it and sending Ifrit away. The primal landed next to Naruto and shook his head before turning to the blonde. "Climb on, we're going to wake up the Jinchuriki," Ifrit ordered. Naruto nodded and leapt onto Ifrit's back, grabbing onto one of the spines on his back. "Alright, let do ha." Naruto looked around and saw that feathers were falling from the sky. Suddenly, the Kage booth erupted in smoke. Minutes ago. This isn't good, Orochimaru thought. At this rate, Konoha won't have a rampaging bijou destroying it, ruining most of the plan. It's time. Orochimaru quickly made a hand seal out of sight, signaling the start of the invasion. A good distance away, Kabuto grinned and began the genjutsu that would put most of the stadium to sleep. "This is a fake," the Anbu captain shouted as he threw away the body of Kabuto. It tumbled across the ground to reveal a corpse that was weeks old, if the level of decomposition was anything to go by. "Spread out. Find the enemy and protect the civilians," the captain ordered. The Anbu quickly fled the scene and began to engage Oto and Suna shinobi that revealed themselves. "I'll handle this myself. Vulcan, Buster." Ifrit growled as he lifted up his claw and slammed it on the ground, releasing a large force of heat and flames that pushed all the feathers away and woke up all the people who fell asleep or were beginning to nod off. "What did you do?" Naruto asked in amazement. "I merely released a large pulse of my own fire, destroying the genjutsu while releasing those trapped within it," Ifrit told him. "Let's go. We've got a bijou to take care of," Naruto said as he pointed at the rampaging Shikaku. Ifrit roared and sent a wave of fire at the Ichibi. Shikaku screamed as he felt the flames turn most of his lower body into glass. Shikaku smacked his lower body and broke the glass, before filing it back with sand. "Incinerate," Ifrit growled as he released a torrent of flames from his maw. "Futon, Rankuden." Shikaku slammed his hand onto his stomach and released a large blast of wind that blew apart the fire. Ifrit leapt away as the blast slammed into the ground where he once stood. "I thought that fire beat wind," Naruto shouted. "If the wind is faster than the fire, then it will win instead," Ifrit explained. "Shikaku's wind attacks are faster than my weaker ones, but he won't be able to handle my more advanced skills." Naruto-kun! Hinata shouted as she and Shino landed behind Ifrit. The primal glanced at them for a moment and committed their faces to memory before turning back to Shikaku. Guys! Do you know what's going on? Naruto asked. Kurenai-sensei informed us that Suna and Oto have been planning an invasion for quite a while, Shino explained. She wanted us to see if we could assist you in any way, and if not, head out into the village and help in the defense. You will not be of any help here, Ifrit told them. I am enough to handle Shikaku due to my fire. If I am forced to defend you, then the fight will take longer as a result of me having to divide my attention. If you feel the need to help, then take care of the two humans whom I am are fighting. Though his words may be harsh, he does have a point, Shino said. Okay, Hinata said worried. Naruto frowned seeing Hinata's nervousness, so he jumped down and wrapped her up in a hug, surprising the heiress. How about I give you a reason to survive? Naruto suggested. What kind of reason? Hinata asked as she tried to hide her blush. Naruto grinned, not his fox-like grin, but a kind and gentle one. When this is all over, how about we go on a date? Hinata froze in shock and Shino's eyebrows shot up. Kurama and Jiu were stunned into silence, and Ifrit turned around and gave him a look that said, Is this really the time for that? Die! Shikaku roared as he sent a wave of sand at them. Ifrit snarled and slammed his claws on the ground and raised a wall of fire to defend the group. Shut up! They're having a moment, you overgrown sand rat. Well, Hinata-chan. What do you say? Naruto asked. Yes. Hinata squeaked as she smiled happily. Shino just sighed, trust Naruto to do something completely unpredictable in a tense situation like this. Hinata, Naruto, Shino began, as much as I dislike interrupting, I am afraid that we are a little short on time. Naruto and Hinata nodded and separated. Hinata decided to be brave and planted a light kiss on Naruto's cheeks. And that's your reason to survive, Hinata told him with a small smile. Naruto just put on a goofy grin and saluted to the heiress before she and Shino jumped away to where Ifrit had mentioned before. I'm surprised you didn't faint, Shino told her. Hinata turned to him and gave him a sheepish grin. I was very close to doing so, but I managed to stop myself, she said. Back with Naruto and Ifrit, the primal was holding back Shikaku and pushing him back as well, while Naruto finished up something. Oh man, I don't even know what I'm gonna do. Naruto moaned. I don't even own any nice clothes. War now, date later, you baka. Kurama yelled. Finish up with your little hearts and get back to helping Ifrit. Alright, Naruto grumbled as he finished creating two clones out of his threads. He then handed each of them a mask and said, you go and find a wind heart, and you find a lightning heart. Wind should be more common with the Suna shinobi, so look for them. Both clones nodded and raced towards the village. Naruto climbed back onto Ifrit's back and shouted, now let's go incinerate a bijou. What's going on? Kiba yelled as he watched Suna and Oto shinobi emerge from the crowd and begin to attack everyone. An invasion from Suna and Oto, Kakashi calmly told him as he cut down an attacking Oto shinobi. But isn't Suna our ally? Sakura asked. She shrieked as a Suna ninja was dashing towards her with a kunai. However, he was knocked back by Lee as he used his crutch to smash the enemy's face. Worry not, Sakura-chan, even though I am still injured, I will defend you. Lee declared. To answer your question, Sakura, Kakashi began as he slit his opponent's throat open, we've known that Suna would betray us for a month now. They've been in league with Otogakure, a new village which we suspect was created by Orochimaru. But why didn't we do anything? Kiba asked as he looked around the arena. We didn't want to force our enemy to attack when we weren't prepared, Kakashi explained. We used this month to plan our defense and counterattack. The only thing we didn't count on was Naruto taking care of the Ichibi. Yeah, who knew that he would pull out some kind of fire deity, Asuma chuckled. You think that thing's a kami? Sakura yelled. In a way, Zabuza cut in as he bisected Asuna Shinobi. If you paid attention to his words from when he was summoning that thing, you would hear him say, Lord of the Inferno. If that thing's not some kind of fire kami, then I'm a kind Mizukage. Those are some very youthful words. Guy shouted. He then kicked away several ninja and turned to his rival. What do you say, Kakashi? Shall we have a youthful contest to see who eliminates more of the enemy? Did you say something, Guy? Kakashi asked as he cut down another shinobi. By the way, I'm at 7. Gah! Your hip and cool attitude has deceived me again. And it has caused me to fall behind. Guy yelled. How about you, Zabuza-san? Will you join in our contest? Yeah, sure, whatever. Zabuza yelled, not really paying attention as he swung his large sanbato around like a madman. Kakashi silently thanked the former Kiri shinobi for not paying attention. Kage Booth. What is the meaning of this Sarutobi? A roared as he landed on the rooftop. He, Hiruzen, Tsunade, and the Kazekage were facing each other in a three-way deadlock. My apologies, Raikage Dano, but informing you of the invasion from Oto and Suna would have tipped them off if you started acting strangely, Hiruzen explained. He then looked around and saw that the Kazekage's 2 guards were actually 4 people in disguise. Ugh, finally. Do you know how bad it is to be close to you, fat ass? The redhead female glared at the large one with the orange mohawk. A lady should not use such language, he replied calmly. Piss off, the girl screamed. Oi oi, can't we just get along? A tanned youth with 6 arms asked. All of you shut up before I kill you, another male with pale, blue hair demanded. The only strange thing about him was that there was a lump on his back. Activate the barrier. The 4 ninja leapt to one of the 4 corners of the roof and simultaneously made the same hand seals. Shishiinjin. They shouted as a purple barrier rose up, trapping the Kages and Sonin inside. They then created a separate barrier that protected themselves from attack. Why Hokage Dano, how devious of you, the Kazekage mocked. Leaving an ally in the dark, TSK, you should be ashamed of yourself. Hiruzen turned to the Kazekage and leveled him with a hard glare. The only thing I regret right now is letting you live, Orochimaru. Coo, so you knew all along, Orochimaru chuckled as he peeled away his disguise, revealing his pale face to everyone on the roof. Of course I knew, you were always horrible when it came to stealth, even Tsunade was better than you, Hiruzen told him. I don't know if I should take that as a compliment or an insult, Tsunade muttered. Orochimaru chuckled and asked, why worry about stealth when I am immortal? Hiruzen paled. You completed that atrocious jutsu, he roared. Orochimaru chuckled as he reached up to his face and pulled it away, revealing the face of an attractive woman underneath. Why are you so surprised? You did allow me to escape and finish my work, he explained in a feminine voice. Orochimaru then put his real face back on and smirked darkly at the 3 shinobi before him. So Raikage Dano, what is your answer? Will you help me destroy Konoha? I'm sure that you will get quite a few hyuga as a reward, Orochimaru said to him. A growled for a moment before turning to the barrier and shouting, Kyumo, destroy the invaders. Hiruzen smiled and said, thank you Raikage Dano. Let's get something straight Orochimaru, began. If I decided to work with you, I'm positive that all of my skilled shinobi would mysteriously disappear the next day. Such a shame, Orochimaru said in fake sadness. Oh well, I suppose I'll just have to even the odds. Now where are those 2? The barrier flickered for a moment and 2 Oto shinobi appeared behind the snake Sonin. Orochimaru-sama, we were unable to locate either Kin or Dosu, one of them explained. Orochimaru just smirked and said to them, don't worry, you've still completed your mission. We have, the other asked. Why yes, Orochimaru grinned as he waved his hand and a large seal appeared underneath them. You've just brought me 2 sacrifices. The two shinobi screamed in pain as they were then enveloped with ash and dust. Their appearances began to change drastically. One of them became a tall shinobi in red-plated armor. He had long black hair and a Konoha headband on his forehead. The other man was wearing the same kind of armor, only blue in color. He had white hair and a unique headband with sides going down his face. He had red lines on his cheeks and seemed to have a permanent scowl. Both of them had cracks running along their bodies and seemed to be in a comatose state before their eyes gained a light to them and they looked around in confusion. Hiruzen was both sad and happy to see the figures before him. "You, how dare you? Ka-chan, what's going on?" Natsumi asked with fear as she watched all of the fighting happen. She and Hanabi were being protected by Hitomi and Niji as Hayashi, Karen and Kushina defended them. "Don't worry, sweetie," Kushina reassured her. "Mommy just has to take care of the bad guys. Why don't you and Hanabi-chan watch Naruto-kun's fight?" Natsumi weakly nodded and turned away with Hanabi to look at Naruto as he jumped onto the back of Ifrit as the beast released a torrent of flames, turning Shikaka's legs to glass and causing the bijou to stumble. Kushina sighed in relief and turned back to the enemy. She pulled out a scroll and unsealed a majestic katana before taking a Kinjutsu stance. Hayashi glanced at the elder Uzumaki and asked, "Are you that angry?" "Very," Kushina said as she sliced off a Oto shinobi's arms before stabbing him in the throat, all while holding an angry expression on her face. "Pay attention, Niji," Hitomi told her nephew, "you are about to witness Konoha's master of Kinjutsu." Niji could only watch in amazement as Kushina took down enemy after enemy without so much as breaking a sweat. She blurred towards her targets and the only sign that she was there was her long red hair. The Red Death has returned. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this what if and want to see next part of it, comment down below and let me know. Also share this video with your friends. See you in the next video. Peace.